Hi, welcome to Pampered Projects. Today I'm going to show you how to make this real easy little snowman pine cone probably from some of your already crafts that you've already got there at the house. First thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need a nice size pine cone. You can usually get a lot of these from your local craft store or sometimes your dime store. We're going to need to use some acrylic paints, and we want to start just a touch on the very tips of each one of these little pine cone little leaves that we've got. So you don't really need a whole lot, and as you see this side's already been painted, but we just want to use with a flat wide brush. We kind of want to just go along on the very tips of everything, and you don't really need a whole lot because we want to create the effect of snow. So you just kind of want to dab off and on right around on all the little, just touch up on the little leaves that's all around on the pine cones. And then once you get that all done on the other side, it'll kind of look a little bit like this whenever you get it all finished, and you want to set that aside for the time being so it will dry. The next step that we're going to do is we are going to decorate and make the headpiece, because this is going to take a little bit longer to make, along with the little blanket of snow neck material that we've got up at the top, which actually complements with the head. So for that, we're going to use a 2-inch round styrofoam piece. And the best way to have this painted is you want to use a toothpick, which you can insert at the bottom. You don't necessarily have to poke it all the way through the very end. We want to use our flat paintbrush again. The wider that your brush is, the more area you're going to cover. We want to use some acrylic paint, which I like to put in the very end of the cap. It just makes it easier access, or you can put it into a little tray if you like. We're going to start at the top, and we're going to start applying the paint all the way around onto the styrofoam. You don't necessarily have to be an artist to do this, nor do you have to get every single little hole filled up with a lot of paint, because what you're going to do is once you get the paint pretty evenly distributed around on the styrofoam ball, you're going to use your favorite color of glitter, and I like to use the iridescent color because it gives the illusion of an oversized snowball, and that's the effect that we want to create. So what we'll do is I'll show you the first half of this, and whenever you paint, you want to make sure that you don't have to paint down at the very bottom, but you want to paint as close as you can towards, there goes my finger, towards as close as you can at the very bottom where the toothpick is at. Then what you're going to do is you're going to use your favorite iridescent glitter. You're going to scoop up some, and you're just randomly going to sprinkle all over the place. And what that's going to do is it's going to give the illusion of an oversized snowball, but it's also going to make it look a lot thicker all over on the headpiece. So whenever you get that all done, and see how all the glitter in that kind of fills in the holes in that, and it looks really super thick. So what we're going to do is we're going to set that aside, and we've already got one here that we've got finished, and it's also already dried. Plus you're also going to need to do 2 of the little half-size styrofoams, because these are going to be the faces that go below on the snowman pine cone that you have here, as you see on either side. So since these are already done, the next step that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to take and figure out how we're going to place our pine cone, our head on top of our pine cone. Now, the one thing you want to keep in mind is that all pine cones, of course, come in all different sizes and shapes, and a lot of them will have a cluster at the very top of where the main branch of where it connects to. Out this very tight cluster up in here. And actually the best way to do that is to use a flathead needle nose pliers. To measure the head on how it's going to set on the pine cone, you want to make sure that the bottom base of this is actually going to somewhat touch on the inside base of the pine cone itself. And in order to do that, whenever you start clearing out anything, it's best to use a flat needle nose pliers and not a pair of scissors. So we want to go down kind of like inside of the area, and if you gradually work your flat nose needle nose pliers down in, they should pretty much kind of easily pull up and out. And it gets a little messy from time to time. But each time you start pulling things out, you want to go back and you want to see if your face is going to set properly in there. Now, there is a little knot on the inside, but you can take that off with some of your wire cutters that you've got. You can always snip that off, and that takes the point off of it, and then that way you can kind of readjust your head on how you want to lay that in there. And we want to allow some of the petals to actually come laying around closer towards the top of the head. And the reason that we want to do that is because we want to add the blanket up in here, which actually gives that fullness effect right around on the face. The blanket itself is made from fleece, which you can get some scrap pieces of fleece of material. You can either get an off-color fleece that's very lightweight, or you can actually get the white fleece itself. And you want to use a 5-inch round circle. You can use that to cut out from a cereal box or any other piece of smaller cardboard size. Place it down on your fleece. You want to use your pencil and just trace around it. Once it's been traced around, you want to take your scissors and you just want to cut that out. And of course, my scissors always need sharpening. And once you've pretty much have gotten your circle where you start to cut it out, it should end up like this. Now, it doesn't have to be a perfect circle, just something that's pretty well close to it. Then what we want to do is we want to create that blanket form, but we don't need the entire circle, so this will actually make 2 blankets for 2 Christmas ornaments, and we want to use just half of this. So what we're going to do is we're going to fold this in half, and then we're going to cut this right in the middle, straight across, to create 2 halves, just like so. The next thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to actually make the little draped edges, and you could always just make little wavy lines going in and out all around where you want to cut. And once you go through and you cut those, you should end up with a piece pretty much similar like this, and it doesn't have to be completely perfect as well. So the piece that we're using that we want to drape on there, once after the top is already cleaned off and we've already got it painted and it's dry, what we want to do is we want to lay this on the top all around, something along that line. Once you have the general idea about where you want to set it, the next thing is we're going to use our hot glue. You want to use your high temp hot glue sticks, and you want to place your hot glue somewhat on the inside, so then that way we can start laying the attachment part of the fleece material on the inside, so it has something to attach itself to, of course. And like again, this does not have to be a perfect set, because all of this is going to get covered up with the styrofoam ball.